This presentation is for the London International Conference on Education. The Spanish proverbs and sayings with the numeral component and its Armenian equivalents from the perspective of intercultural communication. Author Stepan Grabski. I am a PhD student at Armenian State Pedagogical University after Khacharur, Abovyan, Armenia. The aim of this study. The aim of the study is to analyze the Spanish sayings and proverbs from the perspective of the methodology of teaching of the phraseological units of Spanish in the Armenian auditorium. The point of view of our analysis is the relevant presentation of proverbs as units of cultural branding in classes of Spanish as a foreign language based on the philosophy of intercultural communication. The respective classes are presented with an emphasis on exercise designed to develop the communicative flexibility as well as linguistic skills. The main purpose of this study to prove that proverbs are very efficient tools for teaching foreign languages. Proverbs are also very versatile to convey sufficient cultural information to increase the overall intercultural awareness of the students. The purpose of this research. The present study has two more specific purposes: to illustrate the convergences and divergences in the sayings and proverbial systems both in Spanish and in Armenian, to study in a more analytical way the quantitative and qualitative properties of proverbs with the intention of offering more or less fixed dimensions on how to plan and structure the teaching during the process of acquisition of Spanish as a foreign language. The comparison of these fixed units, more precisely the research for equivalents and their investigation in situational and relevant contexts, is a more than appropriate method to facilitate the process of acquisition of foreign language and the formation of a certain level of the paradigm of intercultural values. The purpose of this research. The present study has two more specific purposes: to illustrate the convergences and divergences in the sayings and proverbial systems both in Spanish and Armenian. Second, to study in a more analytical way the quantitative and qualitative properties of proverbs with the intention of offering more or less fixed dimensions on how to plan and structure the teachings during the process of acquisition of Spanish as a foreign language. The present study has two more specific purposes: to illustrate the convergences and divergences in the sayings and proverbial systems both in Spanish and in Armenian, to study in a more analytical way the quantitative and qualitative properties of proverbs with the intention of offering more or less fixed dimensions on how to plan and structure the teaching during the process of acquisition of Spanish as a foreign language. The hypothesis of this research. Although foreign language teachers underestimate the role of proverbs for forming intercultural competence and teaching a language, designing well-thought materials or exercises may help them during the foreign language classes. What's special about this research? For the first time, we compare Spanish and Armenian proverbs. There is no known similar study done up to now. We believe that cultural and linguistic comparison of proverbs contributes to foreign language teaching and acquisition. Armenia and Spain are too far geographically to prove the effectiveness of cultural and linguistic teaching of proverbs. We believe this research is useful for developing intercultural competencies. History. The theoretical basis of this research has been selected according to the criterion of the perspectives of intercultural communication to reveal how the learning of the phraseological units encourages communication skills at various levels of progress. And precisely for that reason, there are others, among which we may find the interesting researches of Margarita Kozla-Simanska on that topic. The traditions related to the numerals and the idiomatic patterns with these numeral terms are very common in folklore, and from this perspective it is interesting and extremely useful to study them and observe how they manifest themselves in different oral and written traditions and cultural contexts. Proverbs, the premise, according to the Russian linguistic tradition, offer unique possibilities to deepen beliefs, rights, traditions, and the innumerable cultural riches of each nation. Proverbs also continue to hold and fix the beliefs and superstition accepted in the traditions of the people. How we plan to carry this research? As we wanted to prove that proverbs are efficient for foreign language teaching, increasing intercultural awareness of the students, we decided to make exercises alongside with the questionnaires too. Encourage students' foreign language knowledge, namely vocabulary size. Because this study will be carried out in Armenia, all our students are Armenians who study Spanish as a foreign language. We think that proverbial comparison charts will serve very well for such purpose. We also plan to question Spanish language professors and teachers just to reveal how they would evaluate the progress. The evaluation will be carried out by the help of exercises. The main points related with this research. We may stress some important points of this research. Exercises were made to evaluate both the language learning and the vocabulary acquisition. Exercises were meant to evaluate statistically one's cultural acquisition, which means how much students learned meaning literally or allegorically transferred by proverbs. Why intercultural awareness, why a foreign language, and why proverbs? Because we study proverbs, we may stress that proverb is a saying that expresses a common truth. It deals with truth simply and concretely and teaches the listener a lesson. can help to understand a culture and can help to determine if it's a group or individual-oriented culture. It may also help in understanding what is desired and undesired, as well as what is considered correct or incorrect in the culture. Specific cultural proverbs and sayings relates to the traditions and the determined linguistic society. The use of such conventional lexical connections during the teaching of foreign language doesn't solely assure the communicative cultural competency, but also forms the reflection on customs and traditions of human of given society country. In this kind of exercise, we use the comparative and contrastive method using both Armenian and Spanish language. Michael Kalava երկուս ավելի, մասվեն quattro ojos que dos. Literal meaning of this proverb is that two minds are better than one. Two people working together are more efficient than one. As we see, the point of this exercise is that comparing the meaning of an Armenian proverb, the student deduces the corresponding Spanish word. The main difficulty for us was the matching of the proverb's exact meaning. And so on, we continue with the proverbs. Armenian Spanish. To our surprise, there is great concordance in meanings in both these languages, Armenian and Spanish. We examined more than 1,000 proverbs in both languages. The origins of the similarity is profound and needs some deep scientific explanation. Why? First, it is clear that we had mainly two similarities: complete semantic similarities, where meaning corresponded; complete or semi-complete topological similarities, where both separate words and meanings corresponded. The total correspondence. We studied more than 6,000 Spanish proverbs and more than 5,000 proverbs in Armenian separately. We choose 1,000 proverbs from both languages and compare them. We compare them by the criteria of semantic correspondence and by topological correspondence, complete or semi-complete. Semantic topological correspondence. By semantic correspondence, we presume that the meaning of proverbs of both languages are more or less the same. By typological correspondence, we understand that separate words or expressions within the proverb correspond and express the same meaning. Examples. Typological correspondence. Մասվեն quattro ojos que dos. Երկու աշկիտ մեկին մի հավատա. In English, for eyes see more than two. Don't believe two of your eyes. So here we have same correspondence by the words two or eyes. Semantic correspondence. Habla poco, escucha más y no errarás. Մեկ խոսե, 10 լսե. In English, speak few, hear more, and you will not be mistaken. Speak once, hear 10 times more. In these two examples, we see clearly how the same meaning is expressed in completely different ways without a single coincidence of a word. And all the proverbs were similar in this twofold way, either by semi or rarely complete topological correspondence. One or more words are the same, or by semantic correspondence where only the meaning is the same. What topics were topically common? The thematic correspondence, money, farming, human intrigues. These three topics form more than 59% of proverbs that had similar meaning. The rest themes were estimated according to their frequency. The henceforth most frequent topics in the list of Spanish sayings are the following: ambition, misfortune, arrogance, family, and being, with the following statistical data. The last 9 subjects that also had the poorest statistical frequency are the following themes: trust in your strength, shameless, from bad to worse, trust their own strength, everything has its place, the wise and the fool, sadness and joy, truthfulness, adequate and dignified, discreet and careful, honest and dishonest, social and inadequate, justice, competence and useless. As we see, all these topics formed a pretty little part of the overall statistical quantity. Conclusions. This comparison allows us to conclude that by studying proverbs, students can begin to discover the cultural values expressed in the language they study. In addition, the analysis of phraseological units based on the selection of proverbs with a certain component of certain theme can contribute to the development of methodology of teaching foreign languages, particularly from the perspective of intercultural analysis. Thank you for your attention.